Right now on WUSA 9 News at 5, remembering Pope Francis, the leader of the Catholic Church, died early this morning at the age of 88. Pope Francis is being remembered for his charming, laid-back style, progressive views, and concern for those who are poor.
Tonight, people around the world are honoring his life and his legacy. This is a live look at the White House. President Donald Trump ordered that flags be flown at half-staff in honor of Pope Francis. In the last hour, we've learned the president plans to attend the funeral of Pope Francis.
Yeah, and the Pope made his final public appearance yesterday on Easter Sunday. You can see right here, he surprised thousands of people gathered in St. Peter's Square. He then drove through the square in the Pope-mobile to the delight of the crowd, of course. Thank you for joining us here on TV and streaming on WUSA 9+. I'm Lorenzo Hall.
They had no idea it would be his final ride on his final day. I'm Leslie Foster. Our Simone D'Alba is live at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Northeast D.C.
Yeah, and Simone, we know people have been showing up there all day to remember Pope Francis.
Well, you said it, guys. Everyone who is coming here today, we've been watching people walk up the steps and into the Basilica. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a message of how the Pope has impacted them on their journey. And as we know, Pope Francis was unique in so many different ways, right? He was the first Pope from the Americas. He was the first Pope named after Francis, St. Francis of Assisi, and the first Jesuit Pope, which is really notable, actually, because Jesuits are known for their emphasis for things like social justice. And of course, he dedicated his life to helping the poor and the marginalized and speaking on their behalf. Well, this afternoon there was a special memorial mass for Pope Francis that was right here at the Basilica. Wanted to take you inside, show you a little bit of that. Pope Francis, of course, visited the Basilica during his trip here in 2015. Now today in the Crypt Church, dozens of people came together to mourn the Pope. Through words of the Cardinal Christophe Pierre, you can hear him speaking here. The Basilica says they are joining the chorus of prayer for his eternal rest, and they're giving thanks to God for his 55 years as a priest, 32 years as a bishop, and 12 years as a pope. Now, long before Pope Francis was elevated to the papacy in 2013, he was Father Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He was ordained as a priest in 1969. And today at the church in Argentina, where he began priestly duties, mourners gathered to remember Pope Francis. Wanted to show you right now, see if we can take you out live here to the Vatican. This is Vatican City, where it is just after 11 p.m. It's all quiet there. You can see the faithful have been gathering all day to pray for Pope Francis. Many people are reflecting on the positive contributions that the Pope made to the Catholic Church.
It's a moment of a bit of sadness and at the same time thankfulness and celebration of life.
You hear that sentiment echo, just the sadness that people are feeling after his passing. Back in 2015, Pope Francis met with then President Barack Obama. Thousands lined up along the National Mall just to get a glimpse, just to see him during his visit. And during that visit, by the way, he also became the first Pope to speak before a joint session of Congress. He also addressed a crowd outside of the Capitol, and he met with U.S. bishops at St. Matthew's Cathedral before celebrating the outdoor Mass right here at the Basilica. Reverend Monsignor Walter Rossi with the Basilica welcomed the Pope on that trip, and he says this news of his death still came as a shock.
This morning we wake up to the Holy Father having died. When anyone dies, it's a great shock. Whenever anyone dies, it's sadness. When someone dies who is close to you, it's even more sad. And for the Church, the Holy Father is our Father. That's why we call him Holy Father, not just the Pope.
Our Matthew Torres continues our coverage of the death of Pope Francis, and he joins us live from the Cathedral of St. Thomas More in Arlington. Matthew, I know you spoke to the Chancellor of the Catholic Diocese of Arlington there. Give us an idea, what did he have to say about the Pope's passing?
Well, the Chancellor had a special connection with Pope Francis. For several years, he served at the Vatican, and part of his role included being an interpreter for Pope Francis during several meetings. Take a look at this picture. This is Monsignor Paul Della Durante with Pope Francis and President Joe Biden during a 1.5-hour meeting in 2021. The Monsignor is from Arlington. He also recalls the Pope being gracious and patient even when people made mistakes around him. De Laurenti was not only there for long meetings with world leaders, but even short ones. This was in 2023 when actor Sylvester Stallone chatted with Pope Francis for roughly 10 minutes. He says the Pope loved Stallone's movies and even made a joke.
Pope said, "Yeah, Rocky, here in the Vatican." And Sylvester Stallone then said, "You want a box?" And the Pope, without missing a beat, threw a perfect left jab, just like that. And I thought to myself, I don't think Stallone knows that the Pope had been a bouncer at a nightclub before he entered the Jesuits.
Now, these were lighthearted moments, only a fraction of what defined Francis's papacy. The Chancellor says the Pope had unwavering commitment to the marginalized and his vision of a missionary church. One of the most touching and powerful moments for the Chancellor, he tells me, was during the height of the pandemic when Pope Francis addressed the world alone on the steps of St. Peter's Basilica with the message that God turns everything to our good. Simone?
So many people remembering Pope Francis as warm, witty, really a leader of the people, so to speak, which you highlighted, I think, perfectly, Matthew. Thank you. Now, with the Pope's passing, we've kind of detailed this, but comes a long process here, right, to pick his successor. And so that's something we're going to be diving into. While there are 252 cardinals, only those under the age of 80 can actually vote in the conclave. As of March 1st, that leaves 137 electors. Eligible cardinals gathered at the Sistine Chapel, and then they take an oath of secrecy before their first vote. This entire process is done by secret ballot, and there can be up to 4 rounds of ballot counting a day. Now, after each vote, the names are then read aloud. A 2/3 majority is needed for a pope to be elected. That's for a successor. Now, after each vote, those paper ballots are burned, and of course, if the black smoke is seen, no decision has been made. But if the iconic white smoke is seen, a new pope has, of course, been elected. Well, tonight, Catholic University will be holding a Rosary Prayer Vigil. This will be for the Pope here. It will be at St. Vincent's Chapel at 9:30. Everybody is welcome. And our coverage of the death of the Pope, it doesn't stop here. In fact, streaming right now on WUSA 9+, we have a special from the archives looking back at Pope Francis's visit to Washington, D.C. in 2015. And you can download the WUSA 9+ app on your TV, and you can watch for free. Guys, I wanted to talk about, he has been such a meaningful leader here in the church, and so many are vocalizing how they feel about his death, saying, look, he has given us this ability to open up a brand new conversation, perhaps a brand new path for the Catholic Church in general. And so what remains to be seen with his successor is whether or not the church will remain on that path, or if we'll see them move into a more conservative direction with their next choice. We'll send it back to you all in the studio.
He's known for being a progressive leader, one who wanted to touch so many people and understood the significance of his presence.
And making sure he didn't forget people living on the margins. That was so very important to the Pope. Simone, thank you.